We also, my dad built a 7-car garage with 20 rooms on top for hired men. And we had a very large uh, roadside stand. And it was as much a business as it was a farm. Of course, we would sell thousands of, say, ears of corn, 10,000 ears of corn on a weekend. And most of that would come from other farmers that we get it and put it because we could never produce enough for what we were selling. Uh, my dad always liked company, so when I was in the second or third or fourth grade, fifth grade, he would stop at the school. We had a 3-room schoolhouse, first and second in one room, third and fourth in another room, and fifth and sixth in another room. And he would stop around 1 or 2 o'clock, take me out of school, and I'd drive with him down to South Jersey and pick up a load of peaches or a load of apples, some sweet corn, and I'd see how he dealt with the farmers. And he would also tell me stories about life in Russia. And a lot of that he later documented in the autobiography book that he wrote.
Did he tell you the story that's in the book about driving through I think it was a snowstorm or a heavy storm, where the horses went under the water? And
Well, he told there was one time where he almost drowned. I don't remember the details on that, but I heard most of those stories before he ever wrote his autobiography. And he would sing Russian songs and just visit. And one particular day, I remember we were at a bridge. There was, and we were just about to cross the Raritan River over this bridge, and a policeman came out and blew his whistle, stopped the traffic, and helped an old lady across the road. And my dad pointed out to me, he said, "See, America's a great country. Here, when a old lady has to cross the highway, across the street, a policeman stops the traffic and helps her across. In Russia, the Cossacks on horses would run right over you." And I always remember that uh, importance and that he was so impressed by that incident.
when he grew up, there were a lot of people living in one house.
When he grew up in Russia, according to his book and what he told me, uh, he actually had a wooden floor. Most houses in that time had dirt floors, and that was very unusual at that time for most people. He he also told me how they preserved vegetables in the summertime when they harvested in the fall. They had a big round hole in one corner of a lean-to in the house where they uh, put all the vegetables, and then they would go to the lakes and cut out chunks of ice and chop that up and put it in on top of all the vegetables, which would keep them fresh for several months. Uh, I noticed that same thing, that same principle, when I visited Monticello, when Thomas Jefferson uh, supported his house with fresh vegetables, which he grew, uh, and or which the slaves grew. And it was the same principle: a big hole, and to put the vegetables in, and then ice from the local lakes or rivers when they froze up. And Thomas Jefferson also had a small, very small pond, about 5 or 6 yards uh, diameter, or maybe a little larger, and about a foot deep. And he seemed to line it was lined with what appeared to be cement, and they would catch fish in the lakes and drop them in there, and they would be fresh, alive and fresh until they were ready to be eaten. So I guess Thomas Jefferson was way ahead of his time.
Do you do you think growing up in a house with so many people?
No,
No,
we
what I was going to say is when he ended up having this big farm and built the big garage and places for people to sleep, was that partly because he liked, the feeling of having that big family,
well, those
or was it
people.
common to have people, the farm workers, living on the farm?
Well, in those days, farm workers lived on the farm. The standard wage was $30 a month, room and board. And since we had, uh, he also raised a lot of broilers. So that, besides all the produce, we had a uh, part of several acres of nursery where sold trees. Easter weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we would sell over $5,000 worth of flowers, pot flowers, which we would buy from surrounding farms that and wholesale, and and greenhouses, and we would sell them. My job during that time, I would be in the second or third grade, was to stay at the cash register, because uh, we had friends and relatives would come and help on weekends, and there was some concern that some of them might be pocketing the money. So my job was to stay at the cash register and give change, which helped me because in the second grade, when you have a addition and subtraction with cards, it seemed so easy to me. I didn't understand why the kids were having problems with it, because I had been giving change for at least a year. It's not like today where everything is automatic. You don't have to memorize anything. In those days, you had to mentally decide what the change would be.
So you learned your addition and subtraction.
Yeah, I learned. Yeah, math came very easy to me. It did all through college.
Time for lunch.
Time for lunch. I was a little hoarse.